Hey guys, Brittany here. So today I'm going to talk about my top 10 favorite books that I read this year, and full disclosure, I usually make the rule that they have to be books I read for the first time this year, but I did a couple rereads this year, and I decided to break that rule a little and let them be on the list because they were just so good. So, yeah. And also, just so you know, I have my list of books over here in this little corner, so if you see me looking that way, that's why. But yeah, let's get started. So, number 10 on my list was Prodigy by Marie Lu, which is the second book in the Legend series. I reread the first two books in the series so that I could finally finish it by reading Champion. I first read Prodigy in 2016, and honestly, I remember liking Prodigy a lot more the first time I read it. The second time around, I still enjoyed it, but it took me a long time to get through this. It was not as engaging as it was the first time. I don't know if that's just because I knew what was coming or what, but there's just some disconnect for me when it came to me rereading this. But I still enjoyed it, still makes my list, so there. Also, I probably should have mentioned, I'm not going to give my full review because I either have videos in my review playlist, or you can follow the link down below in the thingamajig to my Goodreads and find the reviews of each of these books. So yeah. So my number 9 on my list is Rogue One, a Star Wars story by Alexander Freed. This is a novelization version of the movie Rogue One. I loved Rogue One, the movie, so I really wanted to see how I felt about the book. And I enjoyed the book just as much as the movie. My only gripe with the book, honestly, were these little files in between chapters. Like, those bored me to tears, but I understood the importance of them. But if you loved Rogue One, I would definitely recommend giving the novelization a read. I thought it was really good novelization of the movie. Number 8 on my list is November 9 by Colleen Hoover, which I don't have a physical copy of because I read it on my Kindle. But I really did enjoy November 9. I thought it was a great story. I do have some issues with some of the elements of the story, but I still overall really enjoyed it. And it definitely makes me interested in reading more of Colleen Hoover's books. So if you have a specific recommendation of what I should read next by her, I'd love to know. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Number 7 on my list is a book I finished at the end of last year, and that is Crazy Rich Asians. I really enjoyed this. I wanted to read this even more after I saw the movie in theaters, and this was so freaking good. My only real issue with this book is the character Eddie. I have a review. You can watch it and find out my issues with Eddie. But overall, loved the book. Cannot wait to read the rest of the books in this series. Number 6 on my list was Legend by Marie Lu, which was another reread, just like Prodigy. This one was the opposite of Prodigy, because I had read this for the first time in 2014, so it had been longer, so there was some stuff I'd forgotten, so reading it I was so captivated, and I was like, oh my god, it would make me remember the first time I read this, and I was like, ah! Now, I will say this now, Champion did not make my top 10. I'm sorry. It made the list, but it's not my top 10, so if you want to know where Champion landed, you're going to have to go to the link down below and either to my Twitter or my Tumblr and check my list, because yeah, Champion didn't make my top 10. It had the same issues I had with Prodigy. Just, yeah. Great, basically with the Legend series, great beginning, but after Legend, the books kind of, for me, went down in quality, and so, but yeah, really love rereading Legend. Number 5 on my list is Alex and Eliza by Melissa De La Cruz, and I do have a physical copy of it. I just can't reach it right now, so I'm not going to try. But I really, really enjoyed this. It is a slight fluffier, kind of simple down version of the Alex and Eliza courtship, but it was still really, really sweet. I know it's not historically accurate, but it made me happy, and I can't wait to read. I have the second book, and I believe there's going to be a third book. I believe she's making a trilogy. I can't wait to read the next one and find out what happens next. I mean, I kind of know what happens next. I've seen Hamilton, but still, I'm interested to see what happens next in the way that Melissa De La Cruz tells it. Number 4 on my list is Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. This book I actually wasn't planning on reading this year, but I chose it for Booktubeathon because one of the challenges was to read a book-to-movie adaptation, and I'd already seen Love, Simon, but I hadn't read the book, so I thought, perfect, because I had recently bought the DVD copy of Love, Simon, so I was like, I can read this and then rewatch the movie and kind of get a good idea of the book to movie. I will say, after reading this, it did make my love for the movie, it took my love for the movie down a little bit, because I noticed quite a few differences. Not enough to make me hate the movie, but I definitely do prefer the book over the movie. And also, this book kind of helped me with coming out to my family as bi, so this book holds a special place in my heart. So number 3 on my list is To All the Boys I Loved Before by Jenny Han, and this was such a cute as hell romance, and the movie was just as good as the book. I loved everything about To All the Boys I Loved Before, and I loved Jenny Han's writing, I loved her characters. I have the sequel, which I'm going to be reading soon, and I cannot wait, because I need to know what happens next with Lara Jean and Peter. I need to know, so yeah. I loved it so much, and I'm so happy I read it. Number 2 on my list is The Rose and the Dagger by Renee Ahdieh, which is a sequel to The Wrath and the Dawn. Now, full disclosure, I had a lot of issues with The Wrath and Dawn. I really didn't get into the story until maybe like over 100 pages in, and that's when the story actually started picking up and I grew invested. Not the same case with The Rose and the Dagger. It grabbed me from like the first page. I was invested, and I just flew through it. I loved it so much. It was an amazing read, an amazing ending to the story. I love that Renee Ahdieh seems to only want to do duologies, because I think her writing style fits for just 2 books instead of 3. Yeah, I can't wait to read more of Renee Ahdieh's work. And now it is time. And also, real quick, just to note, the reason I didn't show To All the Boys I Loved Before and The Rose and Dagger, I have them, including my number 1, I have that book too. It's just, they're buried, and I don't want to dig them out. So, yeah, anyway, just pointing that out. But my number 1 favorite book that I read this year was The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. I'd had this book, I think, for a year, and it was one of the Booktubeathon challenges. I chose it, I read it during Booktubeathon, and I loved it so much. Oh, this book was everything. Like, to kind of give you an idea, all the books I just said were like either 4 or 3-star books. I only gave 2 5-star ratings last year, and they were to The Rose and the Dagger and The Hate You Give. But the difference between this and The Rose and Dagger is just from beginning to end, everything was perfect. It was perfectly written, the story was compelling, the characters were engaging, I need Angie Thomas to write another book now. I need more of her writing in my life. It was amazing, and everything, to me, nothing could top it. Nothing. As soon as I read it, I knew, I was like, this is going to be my number 1 favorite book of the year. And nothing beat it, so yeah. So those were my top 10 favorite books of 2018. Tell me down below what your favorite books of the year were. What did you think of mine? And like, favorite, comment, subscribe. Until next time, bye guys.